being LGBT, being a gay man all of my life, it's always been a part of my life, but it hasn't been what defined me. Okay, so being gay was not the defining moment for me. I've always felt that I was a man, that I had something to offer, and I've always been out searching for how I was going to somehow contribute what I have within me to contribute, and trying to figure out a vehicle for doing that. So in that respect, LGBT, elder, youth, whatever, it probably makes a greater difference to the people who observe me than it does to me. Okay? Although I like being gay, I don't have a problem with that. So, but I don't know that it really has. You know, early on, I had trouble being gay. Of course, we all did. You know, we lived in a really homophobic society. We lived in a society that would not permit us to identify as anything other than what society expected us to be. And so, you know, that was difficult. But it has not been a difficult thing for me to be gay for most of my life. And I've always been kind of comfortable with the idea that I dance to a different drummer. And the only reason I can think why anybody would want to know that is if it were coming from another man, if he wanted to go to bed with me. You know, I can't imagine how being gay, how that identity would in any way affect anybody else unless they had some kind of hit on me, you know, an interest in being with me or entering a relationship with me. Otherwise, it's kind of a moot point. Who wants to know? It's like going up to somebody and saying, when did you know you were straight? You know, it makes no sense. You simply knew, and it's a part of your life, and you live your life, and there are many aspects to you that may or may not have something to do with your gay. It does create, for me at least, it has always created a different view of the world, and I think a much more heartfelt view of the world, and a much more sympathetic view of the world, because of having to come to grips with my own identity as a gay man. Okay, that aspect of my life. But you know, again, like I say, it's a portion of me. It's not me. It's part of a much bigger whole. When I told my guru I had AIDS, he said, well, you're going to die of something. Let's meditate. So I think if a young person came to me and was really looking for advice, I would say, why don't we just sit on that for a minute and go into silence and examine your feelings about that, okay? And sort of teach a process that they could begin to find a mechanism to calm their anxiety in the process, and to let them know I'm there for them, and to let them know that there's great freedom right now, but it should never be taken for granted. So at any moment, if you're called on, get out there and fight for who you are, and don't stop that process. I really think that's what I would say. Don't ever take your freedom for granted, and this is a technique that's going to help you along the way. And it's amazing. I have students who come to me still with their problems. I had a student the other day, somebody I taught in the city 20 years ago, and he looked me up, he found me, and he said, you know, I'm really having trouble, can I come over? And I said, yeah, and he came over, and you know, we sat and meditated, and by the time he left, he was able to talk about his problems and all of that. So that process of self-reflection, I just think is so important. And I think we intuitively do it. I think that's what characterizes gay people from straight people. Self-examination. We cannot take ourselves for granted. Okay, and that actually begins at that age when we suddenly realize that we have different interests. You know, I was interested in young men. I was interested in other men. You know, it's just who I was. It's not that I had to go out and say, oh, I want to be gay or whatever. I just simply had to acknowledge who I was. And I find that very true today, talking to young transgender people. They don't talk about, you know, sex. It's not a sexual thing. Our coming out was sexual because our identity was sexual. Okay? Over the years, I think we have come to understand that it's not about sex, it's about who we are. It's about, in the nugget of our souls, in the very center of our being, there is that experience of being that is significantly different than anybody else around us, than any of our straight compatriots.